Back in the 5th grade, one of my classmates died, and his spirit got trapped in a haunted video game cartridge. It was a blank cartridge with no label, so we never knew what the game was called. We just found it out in the woods one day when we were exploring. Ben tried the game first, and then a few days later, after he died, he showed up inside the game. Being trapped in the game basically meant that anybody who played it could talk to him. Not directly to him, but through the game by making choices and selecting options, we could interact with him. A handful of us kids started passing the game around, everybody taking it for a couple of days so we could spend time with Ben. And then, gradually, he began to explain to us how he died and who had killed him. We weren't ready for that story. We were just little kids. But day by day, he gradually told us more and more. How to find the clues, who to suspect. Ben didn't know himself who had killed him. There'd been at least 3 of them, and they'd all been wearing masks. And it sounded like it had taken him a couple of days to die. And they'd been long, bad days. We tried to find ways to get him out of the game so he could at least pass on and be at peace, but we couldn't figure out how to do it. Being trapped in the game, Ben was angry a lot, and it just got worse as time went on. There was a cult somewhere in the woods, and they had something to do with it. Ben's killers were either of the cult or opposed to it. We couldn't be sure. The cult was led by a tall, gangly man named Chester, with golden eyes and soft red hair. Chester claimed to have spoken to a new god from one of the soft places. The soft places were parts of the world where strange magics and miracles could manifest. Chester had written a whole series of books about it. I read a few of them, but they were pretty bad and contained no clues as to who might have killed Ben. The funny thing was that when Chester explained in his book what the new god looked like, it sounded exactly like the level 9 boss of the video game Ben had gotten stuck within. A large cyclopean being with a massive hunched body, its oversized bones visible through its semi-translucent skin. Could it just have been a coincidence? We couldn't be sure. After a few months, we weren't sure of anything. We suspected there might be some answers for us in the swamps to the south of town, but that was a no-go zone for us kids. There were rumors of monsters in the area, and possibly alligators, and somewhere deep in the swamp was the rickety old shack that housed 4 pervert brothers who were known sexual felons and wanted by the police for questioning about their perverted behavior. At least one of them had for sure killed a kid, that hitchhiker who passed through town 3 summers before Ben died. But nobody knew which one of the brothers might have done the deed, and nobody could prove anything anyhow, let alone find any of the brothers, let alone question them or charge them with a crime. The game itself grew stranger as time went on. It went beyond just Ben and his basic haunting. The game started to hint at larger mysteries. There were other bodies buried in shallow graves outside of town. There was a whole secret history to the town and the people in it, which us kids weren't being told. The more we played, the more we learned, the more difficult it became to trust anybody, especially our families. We started wearing masks over our faces so the adults wouldn't know which of us was which. The masks were smooth and featureless like eggs, pale white. One alone looked kind of stupid, but when we moved together as a group, we looked like a pack of faceless wolves. The game seemed to keep having deeper and deeper levels. There were parts Ben couldn't interact with, and those parts scared even him. It was as if we were on the edge of some other realm, and the game itself was the doorway over. Using the controls, we could walk right up to the edge of the world, the gate, and we could almost see into that realm, through the game, into another place where something horrible was hiding, just behind a smear of confused pixels. We felt drawn to these places, like tiny grains of metal urged by a great magnet. Sometimes we'd stay too long at the doors, in the game, and it would start to hurt Ben. When we played those levels, he was trapped somewhere else, and after a while, it started to permanently damage him. But there was something out there. We could feel it. We all could, and we all wanted it, to get closer to it. It was like being almost able to remember an important dream. We were standing so close to something that could shatter the world, change everything. We knew that, even as children. It was like somebody had dropped an atomic bomb into our laps, and now we were playing with the trigger mechanism and loosening the wires. Eventually, Janine broke the game, smashed it with a rock. She'd been convinced that there was something else in there with Ben, and that we'd begun to let it out. We turned on her pretty quickly. I don't know which of us did it, but a week later her body showed up in the tall grass in the big field next to the school. I was one of the ones who found her. I remember she looked so scared. And I knew that she wasn't scared of whoever had killed her. She was scared of what had been in that game. And what was in us now. That was years ago. I wish I could say we've all gone our separate ways, but we haven't. We all live in a big house together. We sleep in shifts, and we spend most of our waking hours prepping for a doomsday scenario most of us don't truly believe will ever come to pass. I'm quite sure that Janine was right. That there is something inside of us now. Inside all of us kids who played the game. Now we're haunted, like the game was haunted. And whatever it is that's inside of us, it wants to expand. It wants to spread itself like a plague. Like a viral idea. It makes sense. It just took us too long to realize what was so obviously happening to us the entire time. That while we were playing the game was also playing us. You look around sometimes and you think to yourself, maybe I am inside a game. The game. Maybe this is what that looks like from the inside. Maybe we're the dead ones haunting the world. It's hard to say. It's like facing two mirrors at one another, looking at the reflection of a reflection of a reflection, on and on into infinity. Someday, maybe someday soon, I'll go out into the backyard and I'll dig a shallow trench, and then somebody I love will come out and put a bullet in my head and lay me down and cover me with dirt, and that will be the end of my story. The end of my suffering. I won't have to worry or wonder anymore. And maybe, unlike Ben, I'll get to find some sort of peace.